Hello, I'm here today to talk to you about climate change and global warming. It is the single most biggest issue that is facing everybody living on our planet today. And through this short mini lesson, I'm going to try and show you how it is important that we understand what is going on. Okay, so you've heard about all these different greenhouse gases, but how do they actually get up there? What affects them? Well, as you can see out here, we do have things like cars. Cars emit a lot of CO2 and carbon monoxide up into the atmosphere. So we spoke about one way that CO2 can get into the atmosphere, that's by our vehicles that we use. Methane though, for example, it comes out of cows' backsides. When they let this out, it is much worse than CO2 as a greenhouse gas. It doesn't just come from cows though and livestock, it comes from rice paddies. And with this huge population in China, they've actually got a lot of rice paddies. And it's to do with the anaerobic respiration of the plants that means that they are releasing a lot of methane into the atmosphere. Okay, so what can we do then? In terms of countries, we use far too much electricity. No one's using this here computer, so why is it even on? There's no point in it, it's using up a lot of electricity. Turn it off, shut it down. That means that we're not using that electricity. Don't just leave it on standby, turn it off at the plug socket. Turn it off at the wall. This means that the energy is not actually being used at all. If you leave it on standby, if you leave your plug socket still on, it is still using different types of electricity. Okay, as you can see, there's no one here in this classroom with me. So what's the point of having all of these lights on? Turn them off, switch them off. It means that we're not using electricity, which has already emitted CO2. Instill this idea within yourself. What else can you do? Local councils have got this idea of reducing, reusing, recycling. So individually, whenever you've had your dinner, put the leftovers in a specific recycling bin. Look at recycling plastic, glass, cardboard, all of these different things have got different bins depending on where you live. Put them there, then they can go to be recycled and reused rather than to landfill. Secondly, what do you do? How do you get to work? How do you get to school? Okay, some of you might have to get a lift because you don't have access to buses. Some of you could easily walk to school. If you walk to school, you're not emitting any gases, you're not using any electricity. Use public transport, okay? Buses are getting a lot more efficient, they're getting a lot cleaner. Use these, because if there's 20 of you on a bus, you 20 people might individually come in a car each. That is 20 cars compared to one bus. It makes sense. Cities like Nottingham, they've instilled a tram network. They're electric and like to run on a lot of it being renewable energy. Use these trams, use trains. All of these different things can be used to reduce your carbon footprint. What about cycling? It's also very good for you. Okay, so what can you do yourself at home? Your windows, are they double glazed? If they are double or triple glazed, it means that they can therefore keep a lot more heat in. That means that you've only got to heat your house up once, and then that energy is not being used again. You keep the heat inside. Cavity wall insulation, loft insulation. These can all keep the temperature of your house up and reduce energy bills. Depending on your age and socio-economic background, you might be able to get a grant from the government to help you do this. Think local, act global. Okay, look at my little friend here. He's an energy monitor. He tells me exactly how much energy my classroom is using, exactly the cost of that, so I can say, oh, today I have used £3 worth of electricity. That is hard cash. It tells me roughly how much CO2 my classroom is emitting into the atmosphere. This is therefore very useful to show students our carbon footprint on the environment. You don't just have to have these at school. Different energy companies are actually offering these as part of the deal, or they're offering them at discounted rates. So in the long run, these can save you a lot of money. Okay then, so what have we learned today? We've learned that the greenhouse effect is actually naturally occurring, yet as humans we are impacting it. We are producing the enhanced greenhouse effect. We are making it a lot worse. So the reasons that we're doing this, we're emitting a lot more CO2 and toxic gases up into the atmosphere through our daily lifestyles. As different countries, we've all industrialised, but that means that we've had to let out CO2, let out methane, let out these different greenhouse gases to do so. We've looked at the different external and internal factors that are naturally occurring that influence that influence climate change. Over longer time scales and historically, a lot of the climate change was due to these natural factors. But it is a common known fact that present day climate change is mainly down to human actions, okay? Historically, we've fluctuated between glacial periods and interglacial periods, but nowadays we are in an interglacial phase, and as humans, we are increasing our temperatures up to a level where eventually we will reach the tipping point where we will go over the edge. We've looked at different things like the solar output from the sun, how that increases and decreases over time. We've looked at orbital geometry, the shape of the orbit and the axes of tilt. We've looked at how volcanic activity in the sulfur dioxide and ash can reduce temperatures globally. We've looked at the surface reflection and the albedo and how the ice caps can actually reflect back this solar radiation and how darker areas around the tropics can absorb a lot more. We've looked at tectonic activity and the changing ocean circulation patterns and the atmospheric circulation patterns, and also the change in atmospheric gas. We've spoken about what you can do individually, about walking to school, cycling, using public transport. You can reduce what you use at home. You can reuse things like plastics, your cardboards, your glass bottles. You can actually just say, hang on a minute, I'm going to be an eco-warrior. I'm going to turn off the TV when I'm not watching it. I'm not going to leave it on standby. I'm going to turn my lights off. I might install an energy monitor. My house I'm going to make a lot more efficient. Overall, we can't do it on our own. It needs to be a whole community operation. In terms of we need to think local, act global. If we can't do this, then we won't be able to save our planet. We've got this idea of sustainable development. We need to develop our countries and our whole world so that our future generations have still got this amazing life that we've got, yet it's not compromised by really high temperatures and toxic gases in the atmosphere. So we need to get this idea in, act local, think global. That's all from me.